Hey, everybody. Welcome back to your Full Crew podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, one of your co hosts. And today we have a very special edition of the show. Our normal co host, Mike, is in the background producing the show. We have a very special co host today, Major General Retired James Poss. He is the CEO of ISR Ideas. So great to have you here, sir.
Hey,
And we have two incredible guests coming to us, one from Ukraine, Andrew Loginov, and another in the United States, but from Ukraine, helping that effort, Veronika Mudra. So, welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
So,
you so much for having us.
of course, of
yep.
course. So, today we are going to focus on the technology that we're seeing in the Ukrainian conflict. And I wanted to thank upfront some of our sponsors for making this show possible: Centrix, CSG Strategies, Ruprecht Law, and Aero Vigilance. The articles we're going to talk about today involve Starlink and Elon Musk. Elon is a favorite on this show. We always somehow wind up talking about Elon. We've got the Ukrainian Messerschmitts, which is Andrew's nonprofit organization we're going to talk about here, as well as the Poseidon drone and Swarmly and some of the things happening with that technology, and then kind of an overview that we saw in Inside Unmanned Systems magazine about the different technologies being employed. So that's kind of the rundown. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a second to acknowledge that today is 9/11, and in the United States, this day is a day of remembrance of a horrific event that affected many lives. And so I just want to acknowledge that and move on because we've got a lot to cover. So let's roll with our first article. And this article, I believe, is from General Poss. But you know what? Before we do that, I apologize. I'm a little scattered because usually Mike covers all this. I'd like to take a second to have everybody introduce themselves more thoroughly. So, Andre, let's start with you.
Uh, Good morning. Uh, so my name is Andrew Loginov. So my background is mainly not related too much to aviation or UAVs. My background is mainly cybersecurity, but since 24th of February, I just changed my background, and we have created non-government organization and creating drones to help our military to win this war.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of what is, I'm sure, a ridiculously busy schedule to spend some time with us here today. And Veronika, let's go with you next.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be at this show. Thank you, John, for inviting me. I'm the CEO of a company called AltrEgo. We're based in California. We're a women-owned, Ukrainian-owned cybersecurity and special military tech company, and we do represent numerous technologies involving UAS and counter-UAS technologies. So today we're talking about lessons learned in Ukraine and the technologies that we represent, and in our opinion, the best drones.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. And by the way, fun fact, I actually met Veronika at a counter UAS event back in May in the Washington, D.C. area. And the minute I met her, I'm like, you need to be on our show. And we booked it. And here we are months and months later. But this has been a long time in the making for sure. So, and General Poss.
Hey, thanks, Don. Well, yeah, thanks for the intro about 9/11. My claim to fame was I was the chief of coalition intelligence for coalition air forces when we first went into Afghanistan. And never forget, we're talking about drones, but American drones either killed, found, or played a key role in killing every one of those bastards that planned or executed that 9/11 attack there. Retired back in 2012, was the senior career intelligence officer of the U.S. Air Force. When I got out, I worked for Mississippi State University, running the FAA's Drone Research Center. And for the past few years, I've been consulting largely with drones in the intelligence community.
Got it. So thank you very much. And another fun fact, General Paz is actually at the Air Force Association conference right now, AFA, and in the DC area, and is missing the Secretary of the Air Force's speech to be with us. So we really appreciate it.
I guarantee he's going to talk about drones. That's the big
I
buzz here.
guarantee, how could he not, right? Like, I mean, just the fact that we're all here right now and what we're seeing over in Ukraine, I think is a testament. You know, we'll get into.
Yeah, sure. And, you know, the article got Elon Musk in the title of it, but if we could take the spotlight off of Elon for once and start talking about the technology that he's got. Starlink is what we're now calling in the DoD is proliferated low Earth orbit communications. So in other words, instead of using very, Greyhound bus sized satellites operating at geosynchronous orbit, which is 126,000 miles up in space, we're using, Elon is using satellites that are half the size of your office desk, operating at about 100 nautical miles over the surface of the Earth. And instead of one of them covering the entire hemisphere, there's 4,000 of those things operating constantly to do this. And when I was on active duty in the Air Force, every time we had a discussion about drones, it would, start off on the cool things we could do with drones, how many bombs we can drop, missiles we could shoot. But it would always end up on being the major limiting factor with it was the data links. I always threatened to make my guys wear T-shirts that said, "It's the data link, stupid," out there. But Starlink and these persistent low Earth orbit communication satellite, PLEO, are revolutionizing, not just the way we communicate in the civilian world, but definitely how we communicate in the drone world. Now, putting the spotlight back on Elon, shortly, what the article is about is the fact that Starlink is owned, a private company owned by Elon Musk, and allegedly in the article, and I guess Elon has admitted to this, he spoke with the Russian ambassador to the United States, who was complaining about him allowing the Ukrainian armed forces to use Starlink to attack the Russian-backed Black Sea fleet there in the Crimea. And Elon turned off coverage of the Crimea because the Russian ambassador explained to him that according to Russian law and doctrine, if they were attacked in the Crimea, they'd have to respond with nuclear weapons. So don't know if any of that's true, but I got to tell you, if all it takes is sinking the Russian Black Sea fleet to get the Russians to follow their own laws, that might be worth it. But it brings into focus an important question. What are the ethics behind what Elon thought was single-use, civilian use only technology? He says that he didn't know how he got into this war. He designed Starlink to allow people to, watch Netflix and chill. What are the ethics of that when obviously it's got military applications? And I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, but gosh, if he didn't think that there were military applications for Starlink, that's very, very naive. So that's why I threw it out there.
No, it's a great article and so much to talk about with regards to it. So why don't we go with Andre first? What are your thoughts on this article?
So basically, Minister of Digitalization, Fedorov, has had some conversation with Elon Musk at the time, and they've been discussing this issue that Starlink geofences, specifically the area where they prohibit operation of Starlink services like Crimea and including eastern part of Ukraine. And Fedorov has contacted to the Elon Musk that time and asked him to continue services, to open the service for the specific time. So basically, this messaging was published, I think, day before yesterday, and it will be included into the book Elon Musk would publish pretty soon. So basically, we all will get more information how it has been happening that time.
Yeah, no, great points. This is going to be part of a book. In fact, this was a snippet from it. You know, as a former military attorney, you know, what I find to be really interesting and frightening at the same time is the fact that a private individual that owns a company could have this much power to turn off coverage to a certain area and impact, you know, military strategy. You know, whether or not he realized or believed that his Starlink was going to be used for military purposes. I agree with you, General Poss. I think it's hard to imagine that it would not have been, and it was just going to be used for hospitals and things like that. But you know, like that's what they say: if it ain't in writing, it never happened, right? Like, so if that's the agreement, put that in writing. But the fact that it, you know, it became a dual use technology, I think did put the technology very much at risk for the good, you know, the non-military purposes. And so what I think was smart and the eventual outcome of this was that SpaceX introduced Starshield, which is the military-focused satellite service, licensed it to the U.S. military for use in the Ukraine and elsewhere. You know, keep the civilian purposes separate from the military purposes, and then you don't put the civilian population at risk. At least theoretically, you don't, right? Under the law of war. So I think having it as a separate military-focused satellite system makes a lot more sense. And I think that was the right answer in the end. What do you think,
Yeah, and
Poss?
yeah, and you know, we've dealt with this before. I mean, we really haven't dealt with it for geosynchronous satellites because they're controlled by, you know, so many corporations and companies around the world. There's, you know, tens of thousands of geosynchronous modems out there. We did deal with this with Inmarsat, which is a international consortium, you know, led by the Brits, and they came up with a similar workaround. You know, that there was a separation of church and state. Borrow a political term there, and separating the two companies. Also, the Department of Defense in the U.S., with some of our key allies, are also working on our own PLEO architecture. DARPA's leading the charge under Project Blackjack, and so DoD's got plans to have their own version of a PLEO architecture, and along with other different types of sensors out there. It's a tremendous military utility because you can jam or disable geosynchronous satellites, you know, not easily, but you can. Whereas these perforated LEO, when you're dealing with 4,000 satellites that you could replace very easily, it's very difficult to counter a system like that. And as we're finding in Ukraine, they're combat effective and very difficult to jam.
Yeah, well, conversely, I think the drones are actually we're finding are easy to jam, and so that's some of what we're going to be talking about next. Let's go ahead and roll that next article. All right, Veronika, I believe this is the one you selected. So you have
Yeah.
a little bit of background you want to tell us, and then we'll jump into this article. So go ahead.
So why did we pick this specific drones? So the Poseidons H6, H10, H12, this is a family of drones designed to operate against extremist group, and it proved its effectiveness in the war with Russia. So it actually is, this production is based in Cyprus, and they do represent the future of drone manufacture in a couple of important ways. So they do not come armed, so that avoids a lot of like legal and trade barriers. So they can rather be easily be rigged to carry weapons, and unlikely hobby drones, they can withstand some really difficult jamming. So the design was built to work in low intensity conflicts against enemies like ISIS, like Boko Haram, and those organizations acquire pretty sophisticated weaponry and electronic warfare stuff that coming mostly from China. So basically, they designed their system to withstand that. And all this organization, the terrorist organization using jammers that they're buying, I'm sorry, on AliExpress for like
They are.
$500,
Yep.
and they instantly have satellite positioning denial within a 10-kilometer radius. Sorry, I'm using kilometers because we're
It's
from
okay.
still. So basically, Swarmly designed all their system to work in this kind of environments. And the Russians, they actually, surprisingly, they were not much more sophisticated than Boko Haram when it comes to jamming system as well. So also the information that received from Ukrainian troops that actually using the Swarmly drones and providing the reports of on all kinds of anti-drones technique that Russians are using, that gives advantage to Swarmly to quickly update their system. So they're doing from 4 to 6 updates per year. So it's very highly dynamic UAS production. And also, like what we saw in Ukraine, they're using chirp jammers, which are actually pretty dangerous for those systems. And a lot of drones, they were just not designed to withstand that. And I want to tell a few words about lessons learned in Ukraine, like what worked and what did not work, and then I can explain why Poseidons really have a big advantage in the UAS industry. So what did not work? The pure ISR UAVs sustained the highest value of losses and provided the least actionable intel. Then operations on the theater level UAVs within a not fully suppressed AA environment is kind of literally nearly to impossible. Then the standoff operations of theater level CO UAVs is really proven to be not effective. Then mid and long range UAVs with consumer grade avionics and comms sustain the highest number of aircraft losses. The daytime operations resulted in really heaviest losses, and currently that occurs in the war in Ukraine. Then also the poor coordination between the units resulted in high number of losses. So based on the information received from the battlefield, Swarmly came up with a system of what really works. And what really works is the cheap semi-disposable mass-produced UAVs. That what actually works now. The FHSS specifically designed to counter enemy EV systems. The high-resolution HD or higher gimbal payloads, the powerful RF comms to overcome the EV outbound noise, the asymmetric warfare work. So technically, the GNSS chirp jammers, they work. So Swarmly came up with 4 types of drones: Poseidon, H6, H10, H12, and they added the Hydra drone that can actually can withstand all this environment currently what we're noticed in Ukraine. So that's why we picked that US producer to represent them in the US. They also can be compatible with certain US technologies. And for example, the certain sensors produced by Northrop Grumman Group, they can really enhance existing Poseidons, and they can turn existing models into something really more powerful that we can actually represent in the US and for other countries around the world. Because currently even Israel and France, they're doing the white labeling at Cyprus, at this specific producer.
So I think we also have a video. Let's roll that.
Yeah, we can see here the Poseidon H12. So you can see this is the flight test of the birds on the battlefield in Ukraine. And here we see the former president of Ukraine, Poroshenko. He endorsed these specific drones because they prove the high effectiveness. Currently, there are around 75 birds flying in Ukraine, and those birds, they fly over Belarus and Black Sea. I can go into specifics if you don't mind. We see the yeah, we
How high do they go and how fast?
so if you give me a moment, I will. So the maximum total range is 1,300 kilometers. The communication range is 150 kilometers. The maximum hover time is 3 minutes. The maximum endurance is 11 hours. Maximum payload 50 kilos, maximum speed 130 kilometers per hour. Sorry, I'm giving the numbers in kilometers if you
No, it's okay. It's fine.
The maximum operating temperature 60 degrees Celsius, minimum operation temperature minus 25 degrees Celsius. Maximum operational rainfall is 8 millimeters per hour. Wing area 312. Then an overall length is 3,400 millimeters. So the stall speed is 86 kilometers per hour. Cruise speed is 125 kilometers per hour. So we can really see that it's pretty powerful drones in this price range.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is a great example of a drone that was maybe built for a certain purpose that, kind of when modified and adapted to the circumstances can really make a difference. So, Andre, you're a drone creator, developer. Tell us your thoughts on this article and what you're seeing here.
So basically, this is a vertical takeoff and landing drone, which has a hybrid system. Like it has electric engines to take off in order to take off, and gasoline engine in order to make a cruise flight. So basically, if you want to reach such distances like 1,000, like 800 miles, so you cannot go on electric. You need to go by gasoline. This kind of drones we did maybe for different projects. We did maiden flights for different such kind of VTOL drones. This is pretty powerful machine. It can handle different types of payloads like cameras or bombs like mortar shells or aviation munition. It really depends on task military needs to accomplish. So basically, this is pretty effective machine. There are also drawbacks for these machines because they are at the radar, under the radar, they are pretty large. So basically, you can see them from far away. So this is a kind of strategic drone. It has to be protected with other means.
Interesting.
During operation.
Yeah, very interesting. What do you think?
But they also do have pretty high resolution optics.
Yeah.
That is important for operations, and the payload, they plan to have up to 200 pounds payload by the end of this year. So they can really carry some pretty effective weapons as well.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, General Paz?
Well, my thoughts are I'm going to trademark that as the data link stupid thing, so I can get with you after the show, Dawn. I think you can do that as a lawyer. But yeah, no, the fascinating thing, Veronika, is how you started off explaining, what the big limb facts were. We're jamming both of the data link and of the navigation systems out there, and you're right. You can have the world's greatest drone, but if you can't talk to it and it doesn't know where it is, you got nothing. And so I'm glad that you guys addressed that from the beginning. I think you've also picked a kind of a sweet spot in terms of range and payload for the aircraft. That's a great payload, great range, particularly seeing as how Ukrainian armed forces are making much longer strikes than they used to and having a tremendous psychological impact on the Russian military. Been reading an interesting series of articles that the Russians are essentially putting up giant nets over their aircraft, and for some reason, I'm going to have to discuss that with my buddies here at the Air Force Association. For some reason, they're putting old tires all over the top of their bombers and their command and control aircraft. We think the Russians think that that'll stop Ukrainian suicide or kamikaze drones from impacting the aircraft.
Right.
Also makes them virtually unusable, but that's minor. They were Russian Air Force and weren't flying anyhow. So I think it's a great step forward.
Awesome. Well, we are at the 30-minute mark, so I want to take a quick second to once again thank our sponsors, Centrix CSG Strategies, Ruprecht Law, and Aerovigilance. Again, without that support, this show would not be possible, so thank you very much. All right, we've got article number 3 coming up. Now, this one is yours, Andre, and it's about your organization. So tell us about it.
So basically, we have a small NGO organization. We have opened. We've got legal status in the August 2022. So basically, our main area is research and development of new bleeding edge technologies in UAV, in affordable UAV manufacturing. So basically, we work in the area, very competitive area, where we are using new technology in order to make drones at scale and pretty cheap. So basically, we have a lot of different technologies like additive manufacturing we use, for instance, FDM. Mainly all our planes are 3D printed. So basically, we are using 3D printing like consumer type 3D printing in order to produce our plane. So basically, right now we have produced around 50 machines. Apart of that, we heavily invest in our resources and time in order to improve the communication, because comparing to larger machines like Poseidon, the total cost of system cannot afford military grade data links in order to guarantee the video streaming or communication between operator and drone. So basically, we have developed our own technology which uses FHSS in order to evade electronic warfare systems, Russian ones. We have tested them on the different types of range fields. We have tested them on the battlefield already, and that's it. So a lot of stuff we do, and this is it. So we have given away and sold a couple of our systems to military schools, and they are because of that these machines are pretty affordable. You can learn and you can prepare pilots. Pilot can can use any drone after this education and do his job.
That's amazing. I'm just curious. You said your background is in cybersecurity. What inspired you to become involved in the design of drones?
It's not so. We had some issues with drones in like July.
I can take over. Andrew's background is really interesting. He is the co-founder of one of the really highly effective cyber communities in Ukraine, and known as a part of a very well-known cyber army of Ukraine. Is a general term for a cyber community that decided to step in this hybrid war. And Andrew is the head of R&D Military Lab in Ukraine. So when they came out with the concept of 3D printed drone that is highly effective for ISR purposes, we really immediately signed him up to represent in the US, because the 3D printed drone can be really easy mass scale production, and it can be used for educational purposes, maybe for some operations, because it still can carry the optics, the cameras, and also it can be used for educational purposes, for testings of actually counter UAS technologies, and it's very affordable and highly effective. So with Andrew's unique background in cybersecurity, he and his team, they have a firsthand information from the battlefield, what works, what doesn't work. So I think it's really genius idea to have this 3D printed drone, and it's great for ISR purposes.
No, absolutely. And Andre, we've got you back. I don't know. I'm just paranoid. They say just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're having some weird issues with the stream today. But anyway, so please continue if you wanted to add more about your article or your.
So basically, we a part of planes. We have a lot of side projects, including electronic warfare countermeasures. So basically, our main side project is the data link for our planes. So basically, we used consumer-based technology like Wi-Fi, and we have developed our own software which gives ability to communicate with drones using Wi-Fi and FHSS in ranges up to 50 miles. So
Wow.
basically we work in this area pretty heavily and invest into it pretty heavily, a lot of resources in terms of developers and researchers. Part of that, we are doing some kind of different type of seeking drones. So drones which can work as a pretty simplified radar and can detect and triangulate the electronic warfare systems like jammers or something. So basically, we do it in GPS, mainly for GPS signals. So basically, the main problem for current battlefield is GPS jamming. So GPS does not work properly in that area at all. Specifically Crimea, specifically eastern part of Ukraine, it doesn't work. It means that most of munitions which rely on GPS technology, like HIMARS or some other munitions, they may not work. So basically, this seeking drone is just a drone which can find and provide information where these jamming sources are located, and then we will neutralize them with artillery or other means.
Wow, that's cool. So it's like a jammer hunter. It like finds
Something,
what the areas
something.
where the jamming. That's really cool. I didn't even know that was possible. So General Poss, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a very possible technique. I mean, we've used it for years in the U.S. Air Force. The Israelis are particularly good at it, and indeed, you could get into an argument. I think the first use of drones really was the Israeli Harpy system back in, 1985, which was a homing drone. You know, they designed it to set it up, fly it over Lebanon, and whenever the Syrians knocked them up with a radar, the drone would home in on it and get them. So yeah, there's great things about jammers is you can turn one on and take out a huge chunk of eastern Ukraine. The bad thing about jammers is you've got this giant homing beacon that if you've got the right technology can really be effective. But additive manufacturing is fantastic. I mean, I first encountered additive manufacturing for drones when I was working for ashore with one of our schools, University of Southampton in the UK, was working with the Royal Navy. And came up with the idea. Apparently, all Royal Navy ships have 3D printers on board. And the idea was they would just 3D print drones as they needed them. They have very little cheap batteries, cheap engines, slap that into their 3D printed drone and not expect to recover it. So it worked really well. The funny thing was to see how the UK Civil Aviation Authority and the US FAA reacted to the notion of additive manufacturing. I mean, it was like we told them we were going to, coat the aircraft in gasoline and set it on fire. So it's fascinating to see the attitude of somebody who drones are life or death to for additive manufacturing versus the World Civil Aviation Authorities. Although they have since come around on the fact, and I think they agree that additive manufacturing is a solid airworthy method to construct civilian drones.
So Andre, what is the value of using 3D printing to create the drones?
So the main value is that you can easily do easy and fast prototyping. So basically, initially all our planes were different between each other. So each plane was unique. So and we could easily create new plane or new design like during night. So this is like one of huge benefits which additive gives you. So that's it. And also cost of manufacturing, because the composite materials are pretty expensive, and plastic, we have tons of plastics like milk bottles or something which are recycled materials, so you can use it like ecologically environmentally healthy way of using resources.
Wow.
Even if in such thing like war.
That is unbelievable. By the way, everybody, this is live. We have had a couple folks jump in the chat today. Casey Flanagan from Aerovigilance, he said he's happy to support the podcast, and this is a great discussion. And Joel Lundin appreciated the invite to attend today. So thank you guys for showing up and for making some comments. If you have any questions or comments, jump in the chat. Like, now is your opportunity. These are some incredible experts. It's a very rare occasion to have folks of this caliber on this subject. So once again, thank you very much. So Andre, is there anything else you wanted to say about your organization or your drones that you're creating before we move to the last article?
So basically, this is in terms of organization, it's pretty simple. It's kind of chaotic, and and flat model. So basically, most of our not employees but volunteers are just volunteering, and they're experts in their area, and they do their what they want to do. So basically, we are more research facility, not like factory, like huge factory. It's a small facility which provides very very specific technologies, and which are pretty new. So everybody wants to get involved. We also have international volunteers who are from Netherlands or other countries who are participating into the project. So that's it.
I thought that was really interesting about your article too, the fact that people do their day jobs and then come, afterwards to help you in this effort. I think that's really amazing, and we're definitely going to have an opportunity at the end for each of you to tell the audience how they can support your efforts. And by the way, Gabriel Santoyo is out there saying thanks for including me. So you're welcome, Gabriel. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. And then Bill Daggett has a question for you, Andre. It looks like, is Andre familiar with Printed Aerospace? They also have 3D printed drones deployed in that area.
Not sure that I'm aware of the organization, but we actually print in different types of designs. A lot of designs we either we buy the design itself, or we model them by ourselves, and or remodel them and produce them. Our main drone is Flying Wing, but we have more like classical drone, twin motor drones, tail seaters, and VTOLs also. So basically, we have different types of drone we produce.
That's amazing. And the fact that you can, as you said, modify it overnight if you needed to, given the additive manufacturing 3D printing model that you've created there. That's so cool. All right, we are at the last article. This article happens to be the one I selected. This one is from Inside Unmanned Systems magazine. It's a little bit, it's from a month or so ago, during their special defense edition they put out. By the way, I'm a contributor to this magazine, as is General Poss. He introduced me to this magazine. And I selected this one because I thought, a pretty good overview of all the different kinds of drones being used during the conflict, including those being used by Russia, the Iranians supplied Shahed drones, and of course, FPV, first person view drones, being adopted by both sides and being used, for various purposes, from surveillance to dropping munitions. And of course, a little discussion about DJI Chinese drones, how DJI said they were not going to sell to either country, but yet somehow still seems to be one of the more popular drones being employed on the battlefield, at least according to this article. But to I think the discussion we had just a second ago, electronic warfare has taken its toll on some of these commercial off-the-shelf drones, because many of them obviously do not have military grade communications and are very susceptible to that. What I thought was the most interesting aspect of this article, something that I've been talking about for a long time, is counter UAS, and the fact that what we're seeing on the battlefield has really highlighted the need for effective counter EW, or electronic warfare systems, on board the aircraft itself, but for the ground troops and everybody else to have some kind of an effective counter UAS system when they see one coming inbound. In fact, I think we have a little video about this to roll, so why don't we go ahead and do that, and then we'll go around the horn. This is a video that Veronika provided to us. So Veronika, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit over this.
Yes. So you can see now a video about a counter UAS technology called ADMU-12, developed in Ukraine. So those are smaller COS technologies. Again, we've chosen specifically a lot of technologies that are affordable, that are and can be mass scale, can be mass produced. So they can be used both by militaries and civilians to protect themselves. So the ADMU can create domes around certain areas, and it has two operational modes. It can be automatic and manual. So when a drone cannot be taken down automatically, there is an option that a signal is sent to an operator who can actually like using kinetic tools, he can shoot down drone technically using a drone gun. So it's really affordable, highly effective, and using few systems like that, they can create a pretty effective domes around certain area, and they can be installed everywhere like on vehicles, buildings, houses. So technically, we think it's highly effective, it's affordable, and it because it has two operational modes, manual and automatic, then you have a win-win situation here. So yeah, so we're proud to represent them.
All right, very cool. I mean, there's so many different counter drone technologies out there, and I think every situation will be kind of dependent on what type of technology is needed. Andre, what do you think about this article, or the need for counter drone technology? I think this conflict has really emphasized the need for it.
So basically, right now it's a pretty crucial thing you need to have, must have for a local infrastructure like power plant infrastructure, energy or some factory infrastructure. It's large scale system, but there are also smaller systems, and you need like personal protection systems. Like right now, a lot of vendors, including this one, are developing systems which can be installed on vehicles, on tanks, on Humvees, and so on and so forth. So basically, in case when these vehicles are attacked by small 5-inch kamikaze drones, so they can be pretty effective.
Yeah, you raise a great point about critical infrastructure. I mean, under the law of war, technically, those kind of things and civilian targets should not be attacked, but we're seeing that regardless. And the protection is really critical. What do you think, General Paz?
I think you can attack anything as long as it's being used for military purposes, and I think those power plants are. So, but that's an intelligence officer.
Still use, my friend. It just does the military
No,
purpose
well,
outweigh
I mean,
civilian.
the fascinating thing about this, and we kind of talked about this when we went to the Counter UAS Congress together back in May, Dawn. If you put it in historical perspective, this could be the world's Spanish Civil War. Before World War II, in which the Brits watched everything that happened in the Spanish Civil War very carefully, and came up with the world's first air defense system to defend the United Kingdom when the Luftwaffe came after them instead of coming after the Spanish nationalists. And the Luftwaffe walked into an absolute steel trap because the RAF had really learned their lessons. Compare and contrast that with what we did here in the United States, where we had a chance to watch in excruciating detail what went on in the Battle of Britain, and we didn't learn anything from it. And as a consequence, we didn't have an air defense system in place that could defend Pearl Harbor. Counter UAS is something that everybody all Americans and our allies around the world need to spend a lot of attention looking at, and look at the problems that has been causing the Ukrainian people, because regardless of the laws of war, all of our infrastructure is fair game, not just against adversaries like the Russians or the Chinese, but name your terrorist group out there. And we're moving so slowly here within the continental United States to defend our infrastructure that it's excruciating to watch it happening. We're reacting like our American selves again, watching the Battle of Britain go on, and then, not putting radar defenses up around Pearl Harbor, instead of acting like the Brits did, and, essentially inventing radar in order to defend our country. It's a big problem, and we got to get moving on with it here in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I saw your post on LinkedIn the other day, General Pass, about just, going over the fence, even in the continental United States, and landing some of those on the wings of let's just say F-22, and blowing that thing up. So easy to do. And even when you think about the authorities that are out there right now, even for DoD, like, I was at Air Combat Command at Langley Air Force Base, where the F-22s are parked on that lot, right? They were right outside my window, actually. And, under the requirements, if you read the statute, and I'm not talking about classified information here, but are they a covered entity? They're not, because they're not one of these space facilities or, nuclear facilities. And so I think even the authorities we have, which, by the way, for most of the federal government, are set to expire at the end of this month. And, I don't think what we have is even sufficient. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a problem. And if anything, I think what we're seeing in Ukraine has highlighted that, and I'm going to quote you, General Poss, because I love this quote. We always prepare for the threat that's coming across the hemisphere. I think you need to be more concerned over the one that might be flying right across the parking lot. We're seeing this happen on a daily basis in Ukraine, and I think we should be heeding some lessons learned there. Everybody should be, quite frankly. But I'm gonna, we're getting. Go ahead, Veronika, please.
I want to add something, that it's so symbolic that today's episode is on 9/11, but
Yeah.
Can we even analyze how the threats shifted over the decades, right? It's not that long time, and we are speaking a lot about non-kinetic threats. We speak about the cyber war, we speak about the electronic warfare a lot, and doesn't matter how big is the HIC, the highly intensity conflict, right? Every conflict became hybrid and asymmetric, and that's why we pay so much attention to this smaller new technologies that we handpicked from Ukraine, because it doesn't matter how expensive is the UAV, the chances of it being lost are the same. And the new emerging technologies that have a potential to be mass produced and can protect both critical infrastructure and civilians are so important now. So it's just so symbolic that Ukrainian representatives are at your show, at your episode on 9/11, and we pay so much attention to non-kinetic threats.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be clear, the drones can be used for kinetic purposes too, and we're seeing that. This article goes into great detail about all of that. So I mean, the versatility of the threat, I think, is somewhat unprecedented.
Yeah, and I'm going to pick on Andre. I think you typify what's going on. You're a good guy. You're on our side, but put it in perspective. Back in February, you were a cyber warfare expert that decided to stop doing cyber warfare, pick up a 3D printer, and has come up with a fantastic drone that can be used for weaponized purposes, and use your cyber warfare expertise to make it very difficult to jam. I mean, that's the kind of threat we're dealing with these days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
In this case, a threat to the Russians, which is good.
Yeah, exactly. We are at almost at the top of the hour here. And I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for both Andre and Veronika to explain a little bit more about their organizations and how you can get in contact with them or assist in their efforts if you so desire. So let's start with you, Andre.
So basically, you can contact me via Veronika if you are a US resident, or you can contact us through our website. I will write down later on to you, and we can publish that. And you can support us with donations, or if you want us to consult, you can contact us directly, and we can cook something together.
All right, awesome, very good. And Veronika?
I want just to probably say a few words about the company itself. So we're, as I said, women-owned, Ukrainian-owned umbrella company representing a pretty large variety of services and products. And by services, I mean the cybersecurity, even artificial intelligence, and even crypto investigations. That is a kind of separate subject, but very in high demand now. And speaking about the special military technologies, since we really handpicked some battlefield-proven technologies from Ukraine, bringing them to the US, so you can support us by communicating with us if you want to collaborate, if you're interested in the best lessons learned from the warfare in Ukraine. You can contact us. We're available through the contacts are available on the website, AltrEgo.global. And you can contact us through Dawn. You can contact us through the website, and we're open for communication. And we do think that this situation that we see in Ukraine is so unique, and it's time to learn from this warfare on so many levels, and cybersecurity and electronic warfare, and kinetic warfare, of course, as well. So I think it's just a good lesson to learn, and it's time to pick up the best technologies from Ukraine and modify them, and to strengthen the U.S. actual defense capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. And General Paz, any last words before we close out today?
No, this has been a great session. Thanks for setting this up, Dawn and Veronika and Andre. Gosh, thank you for taking so much time from your very, very, very busy schedules. I think you kind of reinforced my thoughts. It is the data link, stupid, and navigation. These are both very positive, speakers from a friendly nation, but the type of weapons they're producing really are one of the greatest threats that we're facing now here in the United States. And you're right. I don't know who said it, but he was a genius. The next attack against the United States is not coming from across the hemisphere. It's coming from across the parking lot. And I think our two speakers would probably agree with that. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Thank everybody for dialing in today. We have a lot of great shows coming up. I'm not going to go through them because you can just watch at the end here. But I wanted to once again thank you, Andre. Thank you, Veronika. Thank you, General Paz, for joining us today for this special Ukraine edition. We are out here.